I'm going to start from last time with complexity of organisms. Continued from last time, and that's the next part. An organism can be simple, made up of systems, each of which interacts with the other systems to make up the organism. A larger entity than an organism can be made up of organisms, some of which have systems within them. These larger entities are composed, or more complex entities are composed of organisms interacting with each other, just as the systems within the organisms do. Here we can see that the most complex entity is the one made up of organisms, some of which in turn are made up of systems. Meeting the needs of this entity as a whole, all things considered, is more important than those of some organisms within it, if there is a conflict, because organisms within it are less important, all things considered, than the whole. Another way of saying that is we want the common good. Sometimes it's hard to say exactly. Sometimes a small organism is more important because it helps the whole more than other organisms. And it depends upon the needs of the whole, the larger organism. If they need the smaller one more than they need each other, the other organisms within it, they might have to take care of that smaller organism. But in general, what we want is the common good of the most complex whole. The next point, the name of it is misplaced priority. If less complex organisms or systems are rewarded or favored over the more complex of which they are a part, we have a rewards and punishment syndrome. Usually, that is if they aren't needed for the good of the larger one. For example, if a company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, is offered a big tax break by Houston, the city of Houston, if it moves there, it is participating in rewards and punishment syndrome if it accepts, because the company is being rewarded over both Milwaukee and Houston, which are more complex, are bigger. Milwaukee, the people of Milwaukee would be losing a company, and the city of Houston would have to pay for the tax breaks that are given to a single company, whereas the whole city would be punished for the reward which is given to this one company and the few people that work at that company. The whole city doesn't work at that company, it's just certain people. So that is an example here of one of the symptoms of this syndrome. If manufacturers, another example is, the second example, if manufacturers of computers are rewarded by local, federal, and state subsidies and incentives and tax breaks, the cost of computerization will be lowered. Companies and stores may computerize their functions, thereby saving money. But the public at large pays the price of their savings by the subsidization and in the subsequent layoffs. Another example, the third example, if parking spaces are sold for $45,000 in a community where there's not enough money to help homeless people, then cars are given priority over people, who are much more complex and worth much more than cars. In order to keep organic culture from being infested by addictive culture, rewards and punishments should not be used. For example, special loans, that is, rewards, would not be given to institutions or countries that did what politicians wanted. Computer use would not be rewarded. Cities would not be favored, that is, rewarded, over agriculture through subsidization, nor vice versa. In other words, the common good of the whole area, not just the cities, not just the country, but the whole area. Let's not reward one and have the other one pay for it. None of that within this theory. We don't like that. Okay, if there were no obsessive culture, student loans would not be called for. This is because, I'll explain it now. If war and rewards for corporations in tax breaks, etc., did not exist, there would be much more money available for education, health care, and other basic necessities of the bigger, larger, more complex community. College tuition could be much lower for everyone. There's the reason why the loans wouldn't be necessary. And welfare wouldn't be necessary if these loans would not be given to institutions and countries. Just let people live and earn their own money. Let there be jobs. Let things exist. Don't favor certain segments, and then everybody would have more of a chance. And don't waste the money on war or rewards. Okay, those are wastes. Okay, next. Evolving forms. The rewards and punishment syndrome infests one system at a time. When it has ruined it, the syndrome goes on to the next with changing forms according to the context in which it finds itself. So it's evolving. The excessive interests of new settlers could motivate them to forcibly, with punishment and or rewards, take over the areas they arrive in. As years go by and their populations grow, they may expand into new areas forcibly through punishment. When finally dominating the whole continent, they may begin to take other offshore areas. Eventually, they may find it convenient just to dominate in trade with, say, the backing of a domineering army, that is punishment, over other areas by buying raw materials at low prices and selling back expensive furnished products. Then, and this is done under fear of the army, perhaps. Way in the background, maybe you don't think about the army, but how do certain countries do things? That army is standing back. You don't cooperate, we're ready to come. Then, due to a changing context, they may change their methods, setting up factories in other nations, hiring cheap foreign labor, and sending finished products back home with a special deal, that is rewards, on import taxes. Don't have to pay import taxes if you go to a foreign country. If you're an international company, we will give you this reward. Okay, so those are uses of the rewards and punishment syndrome which cause problems. Okay, the next part is escalation toward death. Rewards and punishment are syndromes within organic systems. The organic systems are okay, but they're being attacked by these rewards and punishment syndromes. These syndromes feed off the organic systems, causing eventual death to some. The syndromes, sometimes using the latest technological advances, expand at an escalating rate toward new and healthy systems. The last example illustrated, former example, illustrated how settlers' forms of domination and destruction evolved over a period of years until finally their descendants' domination and destruction was on a totally more massive scale and worldwide. The next example demonstrates how a lack of interest in the more complex system, in other words, lack of interest in the organic common good, leads to even more destruction, eventually up to the point where even the settlers' descendants will finally also be threatened with death-like things. Escalation toward death example. If corporations with their own profits, that would be their reward, as the motive, operate in northern U.S. areas until the areas are no longer have resources, this would be an example. At this point, they're offered special treatment, that is rewards, by southwestern U.S. cities or cities, and they accept and move south. That continues the situation. So they leave the first city where they have no more resources that they can take advantage of very easily and go down to a southwest area. Eventually the resources in the southwestern area are used up and they move farther south where they are given special deals, that is rewards, by Mexican officials. Eventually, when Mexican resources are used up, they go farther south, maybe to South America, each time leaving behind blighted inner cities with chemical spills, broken down or burned out buildings, asphalt-covered parking lots, and with advanced technologies which have been rewarded, the destruction of natural resources, such as deforestation, take place each time at a faster pace. So very often technologies are rewarded, not always, but even if they're not rewarded, they can make their money faster if they have the technology just to cut down that forest very fast and then reap all the profits and leave a devastation behind. That's what I call death, is that devastation. Okay. Next part, loss of freedom and equality. The first example is scientific and technological activity can be rewarded by paying scientific researchers and professors. Oh no, we skipped that. I think I said that. I said that before. Let's skip that part because I think that I took that all before. Yeah, and that evolving forms, I think I did take that before. So I'm going to skip that. Oh no, I'm not sure what I took and what I didn't take. Okay, disrespect for the most complex level. As the addictive syndromes progress, real needs increase due to the destruction caused in the pursuit of addictions rather than authentic needs. Needs are authentic only when the most complex systems involved are respected, that is, the common good. Okay, disrespect for the most complex system. Here's the first example. If a new seed for robust crops is invented and rewarded, it begins to be used generally in India. Seed companies may be very successful and scientists may earn a good living, but there may be a new need for fertilizer because the new products are so robust they use up more of the nutrients in the soil, perhaps a new need for irrigation because the plants take so much water, and perhaps a need for more money now if this new seed cannot be salvaged from last year's crops and must be purchased. Eventually, there may also be a need for a special expensive scientific seed repository